Hey, y'all. This week we're going to look at the next virtue in the fruit of the Spirit, and that's kindness. As we think about the world that we live in, kindness is not something that we see very often, but when we do, it has an incredible impact on our lives. When we see and we experience someone being kind, it stands out because it's not something that we usually see. In order to understand kindness, we have to go back and look at God in the Old Testament and then in the New and see that He defines kindness. Often in the Old Testament, it talks about God's goodness towards His people, His love towards His people, His loving kindness as He patiently waits for them to come along and do the things that He has called them to do, as He withholds His judgment on their lives because He is kind towards them, as He blesses them and takes care of them and watches over them. All of these things we see in the Old Testament as God is kind towards His people. We see it exemplified in the New Testament in the life of Jesus, as Jesus sacrificed His life for us, didn't give us the punishment that we deserve, the judgment that we deserve, but that Jesus took our punishment, took our place, and became our substitute on the cross as He died on the cross for each one of us. And when we place our faith in Christ, He becomes part of our life, and His kind sacrifice for us becomes the foundation of who we are as we begin to live for Him. When we think about the fact that we don't deserve anything except judgment from God, and yet God, as a loving and kind Father, provides salvation for us. But He doesn't stop there. As a loving and kind Father, He leads us where we need to go. He disciplines us when we're heading in the wrong direction. And He provides for us all the things that we need to do the things that He's called us to do. As a loving and kind Father, He takes care of us, watches over us, and is there for us as we continue to walk with Him. When we think about the kindness of God, especially as it's exemplified by Jesus on the cross, then we as Christians ought to show that kindness in the way that we deal with other people. It's no surprise that kindness is one of the virtues mentioned in the fruit of the Spirit, because kindness is, is foundational to who God is. And so when we as Christians are living in this world, we should show forth that virtue that comes from Him in the way that we treat other people. It's very easy for us to treat other Christians with kindness. But Jesus said that we were supposed to love our enemies. We were supposed to bless those who curse us. We were supposed to pray for those who despitefully use us. In fact, He said, if you love those who love you, what really have you done different than anyone else in the world? Everybody does that. But when we think about God's love and God's kindness, He didn't just love people who already loved Him. He loved us when we were at our most unlovable, when we were at odds with Him, when we were enemies with Him. He showed kindness towards us. We as Christians ought to be kind people. One of the places where I see Christians being especially unkind is on social media. It seems very easy for us to say ugly things, hateful things, and just mean things because we're typing them into a computer or a phone. We're not actually saying them in person to the person we're talking to or the people we're talking to. But we as Christians, we're supposed to show the fruit of the Spirit, and kindness should show forth in our lives. Ask yourself before you send that next Facebook post or Twitter post, is this really kind? It might be true. It might be something you feel very strongly about, but is it kind? Is it something that shows forth the kindness of God? It might be better to not hit send. It might be better to say something positive, to be encouraging, to lift people up rather than tear people down. We live in an unkind world, but when the world sees true kindness, it shows, it sticks out. It ought to show in our lives every day. God bless you and be kind.